Hi, Dwayne.
And we're talking Gladiators essentially is the point today.
Yes, that's the overall theme, but we'll dip in and out of a number of things during our chat.
Okay, I'll just get comfortable here with all this stuff and let you go.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much, Dwayne, for joining me to talk about the new Avengers, Gladiators, and of course your career as a whole. It's very much appreciated. So we've got a little audience with us tonight, just a few people. The rest of a lot of people will catch it on YouTube later on. So for those that are going to be watching the episode with along as we have our chat, I just want to get the episode to hand in front of you. We're going to pause on the Avengers Lion, the first shot of the episode with Brian and Albert's credits on the front. So if you'll just want to take a couple of 30 seconds or so to get set up, and then we'll begin. So I'll do a countdown from 5, then my audience and I will press play on the episode, and we'll commence our chat. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and play. So the first thing I wanted to ask, Dwayne, was how did the New Avengers come into your life?
It probably came through the production manager here in Toronto. In Toronto, They would have called me looking for a stunt coordinator.
Yeah,
and that would have initiated me to it there. But I can't be sure. It could have been through casting, because back then casting would often get involved in the stunt end of things here. They don't anymore, very rarely, unless it's a speaking part.
So a fellow stunt coordinator would cast the stunt people nowadays. So where were you at this point in your career? Because of course it was quite early days for you. So
okay,
we're going at this point.
Was 1974? Was it somewhere around there?
This one is 77. This one.
77. Yeah, I would have been, pretty far in 1977. I was 37 years old. Born in 1940. I was 37. Yeah, I was well in, probably 10 years into my career at the time.
And what made you want to get into the world of stunts in the first place?
Oh, well, I lived in Vancouver, and I was having personal problems at home. We won't go there. And anyhow, I saw this ad from a guy who was opening a training program. He was a Canadian, but he had worked in the US as a stunt coordinator for a television series called, I think it was called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or something like that. It had to do with a submarine commander and all that kind of stuff anyway. And he felt that the industry was going to move north to Canada. And he turned out to be right. It slowly did move north to a large degree. So I took his little course, learned how to do stunt fighting and fall off horses and just do stuff, right?
Yeah.
To see literally if you had the stuff to do it. And at that time, there was 2 pictures coming up in Alberta, Canada. And we decided we would drive up there, a couple of us, and see if we could get a stunt job on the shows. Actually got work on both of them. I'll remember the names as we go along, probably, maybe not. One was a hockey picture and the other was about the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I think they were, when they were first there. And they had trouble with the natives, or the natives had trouble with them. I don't know which way it was. So in the end, and then to tell you, I was telling somebody the other day, I arrived in Alberta there with I think less than $1,000. with the intention of going on to Toronto.
Mhm.
So it would have been a squeaky budget. But as it turned out, there was lots of work on these two shows. And I think by the time I got out of there and got to Toronto, I had like $6,000 or $7,000 from what I'd made on the show, or even more. So also I had met a well-known Canadian actor on one of those two shows. And he said to me, after watching me work and whatnot, he said, when you get to Toronto, you go see this person. Her name is Karen Hazard, and she literally owned the casting business in Toronto, and well, in Canada, maybe, but certainly in Toronto, both for stunt people and actors and so on and so forth as a casting. So he said, you go see her and tell her I sent you. Well, with that recommendation, I was able to get a start right there. She took me on and said, I'll see what I can do. And sure enough, she was the answer. And she was tough. If you didn't fulfill your commitment, she'd drop you like a hot rock.
Mhm.
So it turned out to be a good, the best connection I probably could have had. So that was the beginning.
Oh, lovely. And we've just seen the first appearance of your character. Of course, you play Rogers in this episode. And there's two, so you're one of the two agents, Rogers, and Hartley is the other agent, played by Michael Donahue. Do you remember anything about Michael?
No, I don't. You know, as going through all of this and going through some other stuff recently, I recognize a ton of names, you know, but that one doesn't ring a bell. Now, where was he in relation with me in the show?
He's your colleague. He's the one that's in the car with you. So you're both agents working. Yeah, so it's you're the good guys in this one.
Well, you know, I remember that scene quite well because I've looked at it about 3 times since I hooked up with you. And I nothing in my brain says I remember who that guy was. Yeah. He was probably an actor, not a stuntman.
Oh yeah, because of course you're filming these quite quickly. It's television, so it's maybe what sort of 10 days sort of thing each episode, and then you're sort of moving on. Is that sort of roughly the sound about right?
I don't recall how many days it took to shoot an episode going there. And the likelihood is on any of the episodes, I wouldn't have had more than 2 days work. Highly unlikely. Yeah. Maybe 3, but I would doubt that.
Is it relatively unusual for as a stuntman, stunt coordinator to then play some smaller parts to go into the acting side of it?
Oh, they love it if you can find a stuntman who can deliver some dialogue. It's a lot easier. For example, if there's a small stunt, it's cheaper at that time to pay the stuntman for both. And also the difficulty of trying to double the actor for such a small part. So if you were a stuntman who had the ability to deliver a line or two, I mean, I don't consider myself an actor, although I've done considerable acting. And that was, I didn't do too badly in that part as a driver. It was just a casual conversation thing. So yeah, it's just the way our union were set up, our union contracts were set up. It was a lot easier for them not to have to find a double for an actor if you could use the stuntman as both. And it's still like that today. Today, it's one of the more lucrative positions you can get into. Yeah. If you can get to be both the actor and the stuntman, you get 2 pays. You get them both. Right. And that's you know, a couple or 3 days of that, and you can take the rest of the year off. So we love what we call stunt acting parts. Oh, lovely. There's quite a bit of location work in this episode. Do you like doing location stunts on location? Is the studio sometimes easier from a control point of view? only in the wintertime the studios are better.
Right. Yeah.
I prefer, I prefer to work outside. But you end up doing a lot of interiors, and so what? But
Mm.
in Canada, night shoots in the wintertime are brutal.
I imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had series work, like we have one series called Night Heat, and the producer actually was an ex-New York policeman.
Yeah.
And his thing was shooting at night outdoors. Well, he says, that's when the bad guys come out.
We're just now seeing the demise of Rogers and Hartley, so this is where your acting part in this episode comes to an end. Do you recall the actual stunt when you get hit with by one of the gladiators? Does that ring a bell?
Well, this particular we were just talking about actually ends up inside the forward base, where she thumps me out.
Oh yeah, yes. So a little side note. So you must remember, of course, that you appear as an actor not only in this episode, but of course also forward base. You have a nice little fight with Joanna Lumley. She gets the better of you.
Of course.
Well, how did you find Joanna was in terms of how she handled herself with stunts?
I remember her as a wonderful person.
Yeah.
Well, all of them. I don't recall anything negative with all three of them. I just couldn't think of anything negative.
And they gelled so well. They gelled so well, didn't they? As well, they had a great chemistry.
Yes, there was no. Sometimes, and especially in series work, somebody thinks they're not getting enough dialogue or they're not being seen enough, and blah 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 blah. But there was none of that. None of it.
Okay. So do you remember anything about your character's death in this episode? So you get somebody punches through the car and drags Hartley out. You get a karate chop, and I think you use a trampoline for that.
I think you're talking about a thing where he hits me and I fly right over the hood of the car.
That's it. Yes, that's it.
Okay. What's interesting, how that was what I used was a trampoline. So the trampoline is right down at the side of the car by the front wheel there, small trampoline. And the person hitting me is standing in the trampoline is in between him and the car. So I had a jerk rig put on me. So then I jumped off the car. And as I'm leaving the trampoline, he swings the punch. The trampoline throws me up in the air. He punches me up in the air, and then the jerk line pulls me over the car.
Right.
Kind of an interesting. I used the same system on another movie later.
And was that quite a new technique back then?
Well, I had to invent it sort of on the spot. Right? How are we going to do this? This guy is really strong. When he hits you, we need to know that it was powerful. Yeah. And so that's what I came up with. This wasn't a special effect. It wasn't rigging. It's what I came up with, and it worked quite well.
Oh, wonderful.
I thought.
We should mention that in the opening scene of the episode, there is some quite furious sort of kung fu fighting between the gladiators. But I believe that. Can you explain a little bit your role as a stunt coordinator? Because of course there was an English counterpart on the episode, so there were two of you. Can you explain the complexities of why that is, and what you did and what he did?
My part in the scene of sort of teaching these guys, and also the guy saying, I just remember mostly watching.
Yeah.
Okay. Val and a martial arts guy for advice as well. Okay. So there wasn't a whole lot that I could do that except be there, because it was my job to be there.
Mhm.
And there are some situations from foreign productions, if I put it that way, coming here, who don't know what to anticipate in terms of some of the talent.
Mhm.
So at that time, they would insist on bringing their own, which is why Val was there. Okay. They weren't going to trust it to a Canadian source that they didn't know.
Hmm.
And it was pretty common, whether it was an American, we had a couple of French co-productions during the time on series work. And mostly they would ask for their own man.
Mm.
But they had to have a counterpart, Canadian counterpart. So also you might work out as 2 units. They say, well, you stay with the main unit and I'll go do the second unit stuff. As you will know, most of the car driving, anybody could have done. There was no high-speed chases really that would require my expertise at the time, and I would assume. But mostly it was because the main guy really, without saying it, would have been their man, Val.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would, at the time, there were lots of things that I could do. Also, I knew the local talent. Val would not know the local talent. So a lot of those, here's what we need, go get them.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing.
Hmm.
So
So
it was
it's-
okay. It worked fine. It worked fine. I didn't feel that I was being wronged or anything like that. But
and
where martial arts are concerned, I know nothing. To this day, I know nothing about martial arts.
yeah.
My daughter's a black belt. I know nothing about it.
Yeah. Yes, quite a discipline, isn't it? So yeah, black belt is fantastic. It's Valentino Musetti who we're talking about. Do you remember what Val was like as a person?
I'll say it again. There wasn't anyone in the British contingent that I could say a bad word about. None.
All very cordial and yeah.
All nice. We had dinners out a couple of times. I mean, we didn't see everybody every night after work or anything like that, but it was easygoing, enjoyable to work with.
Oh, good. And of course, Ray Austin, a very famous stunt, originally stuntman, director, and a huge number of other achievements, was the coordinating producer for these Canadian episodes. Do you remember Ray Austin much?
The only thing I remember about Ray, really, to tell you the truth, I don't recall him being too much involved in the stunt coordinating. I always thought he was a producer or something.
Yeah.
I always remember that he crashed a car while he was here. Pretty heavy front end damage.
Mm-hmm.
And he sort of said there was nothing he could do. It wasn't his fault. I don't know. And that he was able to get from the driver's seat to the back seat, which is why he wasn't injured. And I know enough about smashing cars into cars. Unless you're planning it, you have no chance at all.
Yeah.
If you had enough time to jump in the back seat, you had enough time to avoid the crash.
Yes, I mean, yes.
But again, it's all hearsay. I wasn't there. This was just set talk.
Ah, right, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm not. But I remember at the time feeling the same way. Geez.
Yeah.
When you're not expecting it, you're getting out from behind the wheel and over the front seat into the back seat. There's something happened in that accident that was odd. That's all. But like I say, it was all set. Say nobody knows what happened, but it was a talk of town for a couple of days.
Oh yeah. A lot of people might probably do know that Ray introduced Kung Fu to the Avengers, the original series. It hadn't been seen on UK TV before, so I'm not suggesting he's got reflexes like the people we see in this episode, but I think he was always quite sort of agile. So, but you never know with these things. Um,
Well, yeah, I don't recall actually physically working on set with him, to tell you the truth.
yeah. I think he was very much sort of because he knew the producers,
Front
he worked with
office.
them. He was, and they couldn't be there. He was kind of sort of overseeing it all for them more than being on the set all the time.
Front
Um,
office.
hmm. Last time when we had a little pre-chat about this, we wanted to talk about the fight in the shop when the gladiators are buying the knives. I think you had some interesting recollections there.
Well, the interesting part of that is the guy in the, I think he had a plaid shirt. He is a very famous Canadian boxer who actually fought Muhammad Ali,
Right.
and he lost the fight, but he, in his entire career, he was never knocked down in the ring. So I remember more about the person than I do about it, a little physical. But it was a nice little fight. I probably coordinated that fight and just don't remember it.
Yeah.
I did a fight scene with, his name is George Chavello, was the boxer's name, the guy I'm talking about.
So I can't hear. Can you? I can't hear you, Dwayne.
Okay, you hear me
Oh,
now?
that's better. Yeah, you just faded off a little bit. So you were
Okay.
saying you coordinated a fight somewhere?
Well, that one that you're talking about,
Yeah.
George Chavello, a very famous boxer,
Mhm.
like I told you. And I actually did another film with him. I think it was probably one of my television series. And he gets to grab me and throw me against a van, like an ordinary soccer mother's van.
Mhm.
And he didn't know his own strength. The dent that he put in there with my back and head, I'm surprised I didn't knock me out. He really whammed me against that van. And I think he just thought he was doing his job, right?
Mm.
And there's not much you can say. You can't, poop happens, as they say.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've spoken to a lot of stunt people over the years, and they've all got at least one or two close call stories. I don't know if you have anything that you would like to share in that kind of department.
Close calls. I like to think that most of my close calls I wasn't aware of.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I did several car hits at 30 miles an hour. That means I'm standing on the road and a car comes at me at 30 miles an hour. I consider those kind of stunts the most dangerous.
Mm.
And you really don't know how close you came because the action is so fast and so brutal. You came. There are not too many that I think of as that'll come right off the top of my head. I'm sure there were many. I remember falling off a very steep slope. I guess slope is a nice word. It was more of a damn drop off.
Mm.
Maybe and the shot was a guy throws me down this thing from the top. And it actually literally ripped the clothes off me. And I did hit my head on a rock, which and that was one that I came very close to getting into big trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was a motorcycle, but it wasn't a real motorcycle. It was one they built for the job because it was an antique motorcycle in the show, and they couldn't find one that they could wreck.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So they built a motorcycle. And it was a downhill jump. It was a cross-country race between a horseman and this bike. And when I jumped the bike off the lip of the downhill slope, it broke in half. The cables that you use to, all the brake cables and such, I got caught up in them. And instead of just falling off the bike when it broke in half, it tied me up. So I went all the way down this hill, bouncing between two halves of a motorcycle. right to the edge of a gravel pit. I mean, it was not in. No, I remember this so well, and I was way more stunned than injured. Okay, like I couldn't believe it. Although I was pretty shook up. Had I gone any farther, I wouldn't have made it. If I had gone down straight down into this huge pit, and went all over. And I always remember, Trudy Young was the actress's name, who seemed to. She ran down that hill. She had no need to. I mean, we had crew, we had a nurse on set, but for some reason she made it down to the bottom of the hill. I always remember her holding my hand while the rest of the crew got to me. But that was another one where, you know, it just said, "Hey, buddy, you lucked out." So there wasn't a whole lot that you could do to help yourself. You know, once it broke in, no pre-planning. It just planned to do this jump and go on down the hill. So it wasn't like you could say, "Well, I screwed up. I didn't rig it right," or whatever. This was just luck playing its game, right? That was it. And those two I remember quite well. Although I always think anytime you're moving at any speed and you have to hit the concrete, it can be brutal. I did another motorcycle stunt after only learning to ride a bike a week before. And it was driving the bike onto a grenade. So there's this big explosion and the bike flies up in the air. And I said, "Yeah, that's fine. We can do this." So I put this high ramp with explosives underneath it. And they said, "Do you want to put any kind of protection on the road, like gym mats? Because we can shoot this. We only need to see you airborne, coming in and going airborne, blah, blah, blah." So we could take the roadway out and you could put mats down there. So I thought about it for a while and I said, "No, I don't want any mats." And everybody was, "What?" And now I'm going to tell you the secret of why I have told other people of why I turned down the mats. I thought I'd look stupid if I missed the mats.
Oh.
That's it. I remember to this day that thought, saying, "Oh, geez, if you miss the mats, they'll think you're stupid." And that picture is one of the more famous pictures of me, that motorcycle thing, in my history. I mean, it was all over Toronto to every production office within a day. And still to this day, it'll come up among them. I'll go on social media and one of the boys to say, who are saying how the young guys are not up to snuff, and say, "My picture would show up there as to how it's done."
Yeah, what wonderful.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, because I think you were saying last time that everyone wanted to work on the New Avengers. Was New Avengers something that you was well watched in Canada? It was something that you were familiar with before working on it?
Oh, I was very familiar with it before working on it. You got to remember, this is a top of the line international television series, and there are some you know, to get on that show was like a coup in itself. You know, you sort of bragging rights to be on that show.
Yeah.
And getting the show was great for me. Okay, and as a matter of fact, I mentioned. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Karen Hazard who steered me to it. I mentioned her before because her recommendation, a lot of points there. Okay, so that I remember. That yes, it was certainly a feather in your hat to get that show.
Oh, good, wonderful. I wonder if you remembered any of the directors that you worked with on your episodes. Gladiators is directed by Claude Fournier. I don't know if you remember Claude at all.
Yes, I've worked with Claude Fournier.
Oh, Fournier, yes, yes.
Yeah, I've worked with him a couple more times.
Mhm.
He's out of Montreal.
And was he a generous director, actor's director? How did you find him?
Oh, I had no problem. I had actually, when I said work a couple of times, probably worked with Claude 3 or 4 times, so I knew him.
Okay, yeah.
And we had a working relationship that was positive.
Mhm.
So what can I say? Who's
Good,
next?
because I having spoken to previous people in the stunt world, sometimes the directors don't necessarily get the world of the, or, you know, they're more about the shot rather than the stunt, and sometimes things can go wrong. Was Claude very mindful about your role?
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. You do run into the odd director who really is more concerned about his shot than he is about you
Yeah.
or what he visualizes. It's not about the shot, it's about what he visualizes. Okay, he's got this particular stunt in his mind in this particular fashion, and he doesn't want to deviate from it. So I've had a couple of run-ins I won't bother mentioning with directors, and it didn't hurt me any. It isn't like they said you'll never work in this town again or anything like that.
Yeah.
You just have to point out how doing it. I can give you this stunt my way. If I try to do it your way, there's a considerable amount of danger involved. And if that didn't help, you said, and money. So now production says, well, we can't afford to pay you that. So there's always a way around these things most of the time. Once they're convinced that you can actually give them the shot, there are times when you say, not only can I give you the shot, it's going to look better than what you've got in mind. So it's just a matter of people ask, how is it to get along with so-and-so? And he goes, here, he's a dick. But I could go and work for that same person and no problem at all.
Yeah.
It's people are just weird, huh?
Well, I think people get on with other people for different reasons, and it's also about what's happening perhaps outside of work can affect people, and so people do tend to have, you say, wildly different experiences of the same person, very likable, terrible, but I suppose it's just depends on the situation, I guess. Richard Gilbert directed Complex. Do you remember Richard Gilbert at all?
The director?
Yeah.
No, I do not.
No.
I've heard the name, it bobbles around in my head here, but I
Yeah.
can't put a face on it.
Okay, yeah.
That's right.
And the other actor was Don Thompson, and he did Forward Base and Emily. I don't know if Don Thompson left an impression.
See, there's another one that I can't put a face on as a director. There's a good chance that I could work on Emily and never see the main unit director. I have worked on movies with a famous actor and say, oh, you work with me? Yeah, but I never saw him. I never worked on this physical set with him. So that maybe you got two. Oh, he did 2 episodes, Don, or is there a couple more?
Yeah. Don Thompson did Complex. Sorry, he did Forward Base, and he did Emily. He did the 2.
See, if I'd have thought about it, I could have looked up and had a look at his face and maybe say, oh yeah, but I can't right now.
Oh,
I hope he's not listening and saying, you don't remember me?
I mean, of course, Claude sadly died earlier this year. I think it was.
I wasn't aware that he died.
Yes, he's. I think it was March time. He left us. I'm not sure of the other 2 because a lot of people tend to sort of disappear after a while. And
well, there's one we missed out on. There's Don, who did 2 of the episodes. Claude, who was the other one?
Richard Gilbert was the other one, and he did. Richard Gilbert did Complex, and again, I'm not sure whether he's around or not.
I mean, it's, when I look over my career of 50 odd years, there's lots of stuff I forget.
Oh yeah,
Lots of
yeah.
people I forget. Uh, you know, and it's not because I'm over 30 and forget stuff. It's just time has sort of erased it or smudged it a bit.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think as you say, if people do stick out, it's either because they were brilliant or maybe they were awful. So at least we know, you know, by surmising you don't remember them, that they weren't bad. So that's good. Would you have watched the episodes when they were broadcast? Were you interested in watching the final product?
I remember seeing most of them,
Mhm.
but once again, you know, it's so much time has passed. I don't remember Emily,
Yeah.
even though I know I worked inside, you
Yeah.
know, but I don't remember. It's interesting because, you know, where they blew the car up and all that kind of stuff. I probably wasn't there. It was a special effects crew,
Mm.
you know, nothing to do with stunts. So and I'm surprised that I don't remember the hat trick, you know, like that's something I would remember if I were around when they were shooting
Yeah.
portions of that.
Mm.
I was thinking about when I'm watching it here the other day, I say, geez, I don't remember that. And I should, you know, I should, but if I didn't see it, I didn't see it.
Mm.
It's the same with stunt guys. I can work on a big name movie, never meet the stars, you know, maybe never even hit the main unit. I'm on second unit or whatever.
Mm.
And that happens a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you've watched all the episodes in preparation for our conversation. How do you think they hold up after 45 years?
Okay. They're a little hokey in today's terms. Okay.
Yeah.
But hokey is a bad word here. It was shot the way it was supposed to be shot, and the actors, you know, they sort of remarks back and forth to each other. Well, you nearly got it there, yeah, but you know, these sort of things. I think it was almost like watching three guys doing a comedy routine sometimes, because
Yeah.
they had these sort of hokey lines that they delivered them so well. But I can bet that I saw most every episode of that show.
Oh, good. Yeah.
There was the characters are so, like Steed himself, you know, like I mean, as a character, just amazing. You know,
Yeah.
like Roger Moore can go and do his 007 somewhere else or something. I don't know, but it was that sort of. There never was any sort of fear. It just sort of like it's just a normal day. What are you doing this afternoon?
Mm. Yeah.
Right? And they had this banter back and forth when they
Mm.
were in the middle of some very dangerous situation.
Mm.
That at the time really I liked, even though I felt it was a wee bit unlikely that people would be like that.
Mm.
But that's poetic license, and it certainly worked for that show.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've just got a scene where our trio are pursuing the agents, and they run across this field, and I believe that some Patrick Macnee's running was a double.
Could very well have been. It could have been a photographic double.
Hmm.
There is a thing we used to. They still have it, and we don't particularly like it, but it's not a stunt. But it's something the actor either doesn't want to do, or running across the field has all kinds of little problems, from something to trip on and so on and so forth, right? So I know that, geez, I'm trying to remember his damn name. What's Steve's real name?
Patrick Macnee.
Patrick, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember him complaining a little bit about this car.
Yeah.
And I didn't see it in any of the shows that we were at, although it might have been, it was a fairly small car that he was riding around in, I think, in Emily. And I remember him having to get it, asking to have his photographic double run across the street and get in a car because the car was so low that he had trouble getting into it. Wasn't a matter that, I think, as I recall, it's not that I can't get in the damn car. It's I just look clumsy trying to get in this little car.
Yeah.
And if anything, he was much too suave and to be clumsy. Okay, so it was a good point, maybe. But he didn't want. There were a couple of times where he wanted his photographic double to do running for him, just running across the street or something like that, and that's okay.
Oh yeah, and because of course he's not as young as he was when he did the first Avengers series, so of course he could still do it all. But if you don't see have to, I can understand why you might not want to. One thing I did notice when I was watching this yesterday was that when Purdy, Gambit, and Steed are running across that field, it's very clear, well, on repeated viewing anyway, that Gareth Hunt is not there, and that it's a photographic double for him as they run across the field. And then you see Patrick and Joanna talking, you see them to camera, and you see Gareth Hunt, you see the back of him. So again, it's the double, and then he runs off. So whether Gareth was doing another part of the scene, because there is a scene where he does a bit of running himself. So whether he was just unavailable one morning, but I thought that was kind of interesting.
I wouldn't remember the situation, but as I recall, I'm trying to remember who would have been his stunt double. Yeah, as I recall, Val probably would have been a reasonable stunt double for Gareth.
Yeah,
but
because he has Jack has quite a lot of hair, and I assume Val had the typical sort of 70s sort of style.
Have you had a chat with Val?
I'm trying to find him. By all accounts, he's still with us, but difficult to find. So I've got an avenue I'm exploring, so I will let you know if I find him. But it's always very difficult to know who you're going to find when you reach out to people. So it's a bit of a crapshoot, really. But I will see.
You mentioned somebody in one of our messages, Valana.
Oh yes,
Vlasta, yeah. I actually knew him quite well, but he lived in Montreal, if I recall. And I run into him either in Montreal or here, acting here. Nice guy, he's a pretty good actor, pretty damn good actor.
Oh yeah. He did a watch along for his episode of Complex. So when we were doing the watch along, of course, because you're the parachutist at the beginning, if they gets another untimely end, you get shot in the opening. I remember him sort of saying, "Oh yes, that's Dwayne." So he certainly remembers you being.
Oh yeah, he would remember me. Yeah. We had, it wasn't just one meeting. We had met several times working. Yeah.
And so what was the Canadian film industry like back in the 70s, particularly Toronto? Because I get the impression it wasn't by any means as developed as say England or America.
I think the best way that I could put it is, let's just stay in the stunt business, okay? In the 70s, there might have been 4 or 5 professional stuntmen. Most of the guys you see in those shows weren't really professional stuntmen at the time. But now there may be as many as 500 or 600 stuntmen in Toronto.
Right.
So that's the difference in the industry. I used to say when I started in Vancouver, and they would have 3 movies a year, and 2 of them didn't have stunts. And we had the same problem out here. So back then we were living on television more than feature film. Although they would come, but we just didn't need the personnel. There just wasn't enough work. But now, I mean, gosh, it's just incredible. The work here in Ontario is, I mean, some of the production houses have moved to northern cities. Say, a couple 100 miles north of Toronto. There are 3 or 4 different cities like Sudbury and places like that, North Bay, big production companies going on there. There just isn't room for them here in Toronto. Toronto is like Los Angeles. I don't know if it's still like that, but it's very difficult to get locations within the city. They don't want all that bogged up traffic in downtown Toronto, or because the traffic is bad enough as it is. And by trying to, I mean, even here they were shooting here in my little village 2 weeks ago. And then last week I was working on their show away north of Toronto. Same show.
Right.
I didn't get a job when they were in my town, but all of a sudden, so I worked last week.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
So how does stunts, when you start to get sort of an older stunt performer, do you, or obviously I take you have to do different things than say you did when you were 30, but do you still end up being, is it still that physicality to it?
Well, I think if you asked around, I wasn't afraid to hit the ground, as they like to say. In other words, take my lumps, get in there and get the job done.
Yeah.
I think I would be known for that right up till I started saying, nah, I've done that and I'm not up to it right now. Like those car hits I mentioned, I wouldn't, I mean, I haven't done one of those for gosh knows how many years, because when you reach a point, you got to think in here and say, geez, I don't know if I'm really quick enough, if I'm really, for this anymore. So don't do it. It's like riding a motorcycle. I quit riding my motorcycle here a year and a half ago because I didn't feel I was in charge of my motorcycle anymore.
Right.
I wouldn't take riders. I felt uncomfortable in certain situations, and I've been riding for years by then on the road. So I said to myself, if you feel uncomfortable, you don't feel in control, sell the bike.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened in the stunt business. You should know when to stop, or if not when to stop, you should know what not to do. Just because you did it before 10 years ago, it's the whole thing is, what can I say, is you have to know the reality of what you're doing, and don't be going off and saying my ego demands me to, put on this big thing. I just and incrementally decided I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm still a pretty damn good stunt car driver, being considered one of maybe the top 10 in North America at one time. I can still do that. There are some things you feel quite comfortable still doing. But I don't do car hits. I don't do high falls. I don't bother with the big fire gags or anything like that anymore. Although I used to say I'd rather do a fire gag than a car hit. I'd rather be in full flames than do a car hit.
Yeah.
Okay, because if you're zipping along the street and you're coming around this corner really fast and the door flies open and you're pitched out of the car, I mean, you can get hurt doing that.
Yes. Yeah.
You're less likely to get hurt in full burn.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I did get a couple of bad face burns and some back of my hand burns on a fire gag, but it wasn't what had happened. Was the effect. They were rigging me and getting me set up with it, and I was just about ready to do it when the special effects guy accidentally set me on fire. So the surprise factor, what's going on here, and blah, 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 and your brain starts to say, get on the ground, let them put you out. I sustained some pretty nasty burns. I nonetheless re-rigged and did the actual shot.
Right.
But I would rather do a burn any day than a car hit.
Hmm.
You know, I can rig myself with the right materials to prevent me from burning.
Yeah.
I mean, the latest stuff that I remember introducing here from an Australian, City on Fire was the name of the movie. An Australian fire specialist was brought in with a liquid gel that they use rather than asbestos suits and stuff like that, or car driver suits, and I became an expert at that. But in spite of that, it burned me pretty bad.
Right.
I don't blame anybody for it. Accidents happen. What can I say? I got run over by a small tank, army tank, one time. So I've had my close calls when I start to think about it.
Yeah. And I suppose the secret probably maybe you don't want to feel invulnerable, because if you feel invulnerable, then you might get overconfident, and maybe that's when mistakes happen. But at the same time, you can't doubt yourself, because it must be a fine line between balancing that, I guess.
Oh, you mean confidence and stupidity?
Yeah, there's a fine line between the two, isn't there?
There's an attitude factor that comes into a good stuntman, an excellent stuntman. There's an attitude factor, and you got some of it. I know I can do this. I know the problems with this. I have to settle all of them up. I have to settle me up, and I have to settle up the possible problems before you go in there. When the two balance out pretty well for you, I mean, yeah, you go in occasionally with your fingers crossed. Don't get me wrong. You know, you're saying, "Oh God, I don't know what's going to happen when I reach this point," or blah blah blah. And we used to have a saying on those kind of stunts: when you got through it and you're coming out of it, you would turn to your compatriot and say, "Fooled him again." You know, and that was our word after every iffy stunt where we had done as much as we could to safeten this thing up, but there were still factors that you couldn't control. So you're sort of looking at each other saying, "Wow, man, we fooled him that time. We fooled him again." Like I say, I would do it all again, even the good and the bad. You know, the bumps and the you know, crawling into the shower every morning because you're so. I don't know if I told you, but my reaction was to people who say, "Well, I've been in the business for 50 years. And you know, the good news is I only hurt for 48. And you literally get banged up for periods of time, and the best treatment is a hot shower. You know, you get in there and so I'm fortunate, you know, I didn't break any bones physically working. So I guess I did my job. I don't like to use the word famous, but I'm pretty well known.
Yeah.
You know, especially here in Canada, you know, I got all the awards, and they even asked me about an award that they were going to put in my name, the Dwayne McLean Award of Stunt Excellence. And when I asked them what the criteria was, you know, to win such an award, or to, you know, earn such an award, nobody was coming through the committee and all. I was coming through with anything. I may be one of the few people in the history of movies that turned it down. So you're not putting my name on it.
Well, yes, unless it's something that you can say is a high quality thing, then maybe it's best not to. Yes.
I don't want somebody wandering around with an award with my name on it who didn't earn it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now they've got this new thing going on here, the Canadian Stuntmen's Hall of Fame. Well, my attitude to that is the Stuntmen's Hall of Fame certificate and $2 will get you a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Okay. because the names on this list, when it was presented, wow, I worked with some of those guys and they weren't all that great.
Right.
And I couldn't make them understand that you can't just get an award like that because you spent 30 years in the business.
Hmm.
You don't get an Oscar because you spent 30 years in a business.
No.
You don't get, you know, you don't get in the Hockey Hall of Fame or the Rugby Hall of Fame because of your longevity.
Hmm.
You get it because you either presented something or presented yourself or did something above and beyond.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
So I've written myself out of that. I don't want part of it, because there are names there that I worked with. At least one of them I fired off my set. Another one, twice I worked with him because it was Montreal.
Mhm.
And it's, to get into the Montreal thing is something entirely different. In my money, the man was a coward. Okay.
Hmm.
And now as I see his name on this list.
Right. Yes. Yes. What you mean? Hmm.
Okay. Not happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't want to talk to you with a bunch of negative reviews of my own industry. I'm not, it's just, I hit on a couple light ones here where it's wrong. Okay. It's just wrong.
Yeah. I think any industry you could name, there's always going to be a good people, bad people in between, and none of it's perfect, of course. I was wondering about the physicality that Gareth Hunt brought to the new Avengers, because if you watch Gladiators, particularly the end sequence, he's jumping around, he's very sort of very physical. Did you have any impressions of Gareth in terms of his ability?
No, that whole thing didn't see much of me. Okay.
Mm.
What I do remember mostly about that, fighting technique, getting the whole crew ready sort of thing, was when he punches a hole through the steel. Okay.
Oh yes, the main villain. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He broke his knuckles
Right.
in a very serious injury.
Hmm.
Not because the hole in the thing and wasn't, but because he actually missed. He didn't hit the thing straight on, and his
Right.
knuckles swelled up to twice the size of his hand.
Oh.
So I don't remember which one it was. It was the kind of thing I don't think an actor should have done. It should have been done by special effects, who rigged it, who set it up. A fist is a fist, but I'm positive it was one of the actors.
Because the main villain who plays Karl Siminski is Louis Zorch. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And he sort of is the commanding officer and teaches everybody how to do those various tricks. And it's a marvelous over the top, moustache twisting sort of villain. It's a really good performance. I mean, looking back at the episode, do you have certain bits that you think, oh well, this works really well, that's not so much? Do you have sort of favorite moments?
Well, I didn't see anything that, say, looked especially like phony or put on or myself. I only got to watch that episode once.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I never was able to pick. You sent it to me again, and it still asked me to jump through hoops to get it. So
right. Okay.
I don't need it that bad.
Yeah.
I could get it, but it would do maybe 3 or 4 seconds. Then something would go wrong, and then I'd get 3 or 4 more seconds.
Yeah.
I don't know what was going on, but I know that they would have had some dojo club would have been there. Okay, somebody with a lot of know-how with whatever they call that kind of fighting. I can't get the word out.
The kung fu and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
And Yeah, I was more in that, the egg stump with the car, going over the car.
Yeah.
I was there when the boxer got his due, and
Hmm.
those kind of fight scenes I would be right in. But
Hmm.
where it came to God, that annoys me that I can't come up with a word. Um, Martial arts.
Nice stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Zip. I know nothing about martial arts.
Hmm.
Nothing. Like I said, my daughter is a black belt.
Yeah.
Plus, she's one over black belt, as a matter of fact. You just tell
Oh,
me.
yeah.
Uh, or, it's like, I don't know, black belt number 2 or black belt number 3, whatever it is. There's a name for it. They have names for everything. But me, never was an area that I was particularly interested in.
Hmm.
So if I needed martial arts, I went to one of the clubs and got their boss and said, I'll pay you this much
Hmm.
and we'll hire some of your guys.
Yeah.
If we
Yeah.
have to.
And your speciality cars, bikes? Was that kind of where you thought you were most comfortable?
Actually, I'm not a horseman, but I did a lot of horse falls on that movie. I said when I was coming up to Toronto, I had all this money because I fell off the Royal Canadian Mounted Police horses at full gallop. I hardly knew how to ride. I think 8 or 10 times I did that fall. I was galloping. The big motorcycle stunt that actually, to this day, I think it was one of the 3 or 4 things that actually made my name in the industry here. But I had only learned to ride a motorcycle a week before.
Right.
I immediately went out and got dirt bike guys and to teach me how to ride hard. I wouldn't say that. I don't like saying, well, did you specialize in? Some guys did. Some guys, they made good stuntmen, but were really good at. I just like to think of myself as just an all around, what do you want me to do, stuntman? And let's see how it works out. When it comes to, it just happens that I was a good driver. I actually had a driving school. I actually had a stunt driving school.
All right.
Yeah, just a few years ago. Teaching the new guys coming in the difference between hurting somebody or themselves or blowing a shot. This is how you do this trick. This is how you do a broad slide up to a mark. This is how you do a reverse 180. This is how you do it. Okay. And it was quite successful for 3 years. And we started getting people who had nothing to do with the movie business. They were coming in from the ad, from United States. They were coming from all over. We had people in their 70s coming up from United States just to do it in retirement. How much fun this would be. So that, I wouldn't even say the driving was my specialty, but motorcycles were not. Even though I went on to ride for years, street riding. There were things I didn't like to do. Like I hated high falls. I don't like heights. But if I tell you I'm going up there and I'm going to do this fall, you can bet your ass I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I had 3 or 4 guys chicken out and they accepted the job. They get up there and wouldn't do it. I'll tell you what.
Wow.
There's no losing face because you said I don't do high falls. You're getting more respect from me for saying I don't do that.
Yeah.
Than coming out and screwing things up. So there were 3 or 4 things that I just wasn't all that efficient at. And everything else, I like to think there wasn't much I didn't do.
I was wondering about actors sort of doing their own stunts. Was that something that you were comfortable with actors doing the stunts? Did you feel more protective when it was actors? How did that, the relationship?
Well, I had a way of dealing with that. I did an awful lot of television series. I mean, I would do 2 or 3 at the same time.
Yeah.
Go up from one to the other. And I insisted, even though you got some macho actors who think she can do something, only monitor. My deal with production was, I need to be here.
Hmm.
Okay, don't let the actor talk you into doing something when I'm not there. All right.
Hmm.
I would do it first. For example, I remember one situation to me was kind of weird. We were up in a building under construction. I say we're up around the 15th, 18th, 20th floor, right? And there's the shot where the actor has to, he's running and he has to pull up short and look over down, right?
Hmm.
And the actor was insisting to them that he could do this. In the end analysis, I did it. And
Right.
I had restraints.
Hmm.
They hadn't made any for restraints. They hadn't done anything to put restraints in. Well, what happens if the guy doesn't stop? Anyway, the guy didn't want to do it. Once he got up there and had to look over, he didn't want to do it. So my deal always was, doesn't matter what the actor says he can do. Not only that, I would read the stunt while we're going to set it up. I would often insist on having another stuntman come in, perform the rehearsal, so the actor can see what's going on.
Yeah.
And quite often the actors say, "Oh, gee, I didn't think that's not what I thought," and then wouldn't do it. So it's the cover your butt thing, because you know who gets in trouble if an actor gets hurt doing his own stunt. Me.
Yes.
Okay. It's tough sometimes if the actor has some clout. Okay. What I would normally do with that, and I've had it with some big name actors, I can do this myself. My considered opinion was, maybe you can, but all right. I wouldn't discuss it on set. I would go to the office or get somebody to come and talk to me and say, if the actor's doing this, you'll have to excuse me. I'm going home.
Right.
Okay. That's what I think of it. Not very often did they let the actor go ahead and do it. It's just, I was very adamant about it. I tried to keep as safe a set as I could get. Making points with the actor I might never see again in my life anyway wasn't as important to me having to live with myself for the rest of my life. Something that would happen.
Of course, yeah.
So I tried to keep my career sensible, if that's a strong enough word. I don't know. Really look it over, make sure, check in with every department that's affected. I might have a 20-minute discussion with a special effects guy. What's going to happen when this happens? Or, is there anything that you could, even if I rigged it up myself, I would get this effects man to come out and look it over. And often they would say, I think if you move this to here, a good example was a car that's going to roll a car over with a ram. Okay.
Yeah.
So you fired the ram, it flipped the car over. Also, there was an explosion. Okay, so they had an extinguisher system in the car. I, for example, could not, while I was my harness, I couldn't reach the button to fire the extinguishers.
Right.
So then you go back to your effects guy and say, can we shift this? And you just work together when you see something that just is a little off. In the end analysis, it wasn't necessary to trigger the extinguisher. But so, yeah. I mean, I have had 50 years of little things, that I guess I used to like to say, if you get 5 or 6 old-time stuntmen, put them up in a hotel, and rent a meeting room.
Hmm.
Next day, you put them all in the meeting room with as much booze as they want to drink, a bunch of recorders, and just let them tell stories.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you can remember. One guy will mention something that triggers you or something, and we tried to get a series about a stunt school going. Would have been a great series, like. And we had interest, but it just never got financed. We could have had fun with that one.
Oh yeah, it's always very difficult getting things off the ground, isn't it? We had a question come in from one of the audience. Rick wants to know, when watching yourself back, do you find yourself watching for how you could do things better, or can you just enjoy the work and appreciate it? That's what you did at the time.
Watching myself back, I very rarely would have changed my mind about things. But I've seen a lot of things that could have been done better, even on my own set. Okay. Like from the people that I hired that I had my faith in, who weren't quite up to the job, things like that. I don't recall too often say, I should have gone left instead of right, so to speak.
Yeah.
Not that I'm perfect or anything. I had lots of things go wrong, like you think you're a great driver and you come hot around the corner and take both wheels off because you hit the curb. Yes, you can look at yourself and say, I could have done a better job. So yeah, there are a few things that come up like that, but I don't like to look at myself and be to criticize myself too much, because the next time that may cause me more grief.
Yeah, it's not too healthy, is it? Sort of pull things apart too much.
But we're not perfect, Rick. You got to laugh at yourself once in a while.
Oh yeah. I was just sort of, I think it was just sort of, it was thinking about sort of the occasional self-reflective moment, but yeah, you're right. It's sort of, what is sort of stuff that you can learn from in a positive way, and what can sort of play with your mind potentially. Yeah.
You couldn't say fool them again every time.
No. I believe you were quite instrumental in getting women into the stunt industry. Do you just want to quickly sort of talk about that?
Well, what happened was, guys would throw a wig on or a dress or whatever it was, and this was in the beginning, back in the late 60s, early 70s, and on in, where we didn't have any women that we particularly knew who could do stunts. But myself and another guy, we started up a little training program, because that's where I came from. I came from a little training program in Vancouver, and a couple of girls paid their money to take this course, and 3 of them that I can think of turned out to be pretty damn good stunt women. And 2 of them are still working to this day, but one of them is now more a director than and the other one still works and coordinates. There was only one other woman in the industry at that time, and I never met her. I kept hearing her name. Who is she? So I never found out who she was or ever worked with her. So I sort of credit myself with, I'll finish the question. I was getting a little from production managers and directors and producers about women.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not working with you guys dressing with women all the time. And that's true. So when the little program came up and we trained them, they were the first, except for the one person I mentioned who I never met, first stunt women in Toronto. Okay, and they had long careers. One of them packed up and moved to Australia several years later, but the other 2, Maine, Allison and Shelley, wow. These women, it's a tough go for ladies. Okay, I mean, they're actor shows up in a mini skirt, okay, and maybe a sleeveless top.
Yeah.
Where do you put elbow pads and knee pads?
Mm.
You can put a little bit of padding on their hips, but it makes them look out of, odd.
Yeah, our portion, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the time, these girls had to go out there, hit the ground hard without the benefit of knee pads. Okay. They could get some hip pad in, but no elbows, maybe a tailbone pad. But essentially, so much of the high heel shoes. I used to say, high heel shoes, break the heels off. Okay. Put a lower heel on or cut them off, do something. I don't even like the thin heel. I'd rather a thicker heel. So I used to, for the ladies, I would spend a lot of time at wardrobe saying, can get another pair of shoes and modify them for this. And nobody ever said no. But I have some admiration for some of the girls, man. I got to tell you, about Allison and Shelley, not hardly a day would go by that I wouldn't say to somebody, they are better stunt folks than most of the men.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I meant every word of it.
Yeah.
So they have a pretty good supply now. I'm not entirely happy the way the industry is running right now, politically, and just not. There are things that you can't, political correctness, you can't apply to that kind of stuff. It's like saying, well, we need some jet pilots, some new jet plane fighter pilots, but we have to take more of this minority group or this community group, whether they're up to the job or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of that going on right now, as far as I'm concerned, in our industry. We have a lot more serious type of accidents than we had in my day. Then I have to stop and think, that may be true, but there's 50 times more work going on. So you're going to have more accidents, the more across the board. But there's a portion of the industry right now that I can very well stay away from, and political correctness is one of them. I've seen 2 very serious accidents. I've seen the tape.
Yeah.
And political correctness was a big factor in both of them.
Right. So I suppose also in those days, not only, as you say, would a man double a woman, but I suppose also, regardless of ethnicity, you would have doubled somebody that was black, white, whatever it was. And perhaps nowadays you can't do that.
Well, I'll tell you something that I did around the time that I started saying this has got to stop. We've got to get some more women. We've got to get some more ethnic. If we were shooting in Chinatown, for example, your cops better be Chinese. Okay, don't be giving me. I don't want to see the stunts in Chinatown being done by white people. It just was wrong. I had the same attitude to women. I remember taking a black nylon stocking and pulling it over my head to drive in place of a black girl. Was another one of those things that I said, this is not going to happen again.
No.
All right. It's just, well, there's just something wrong about that. And it's been done for years and years and years in our industry. Long before I get in this industry in the States, men doubled women all the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, you find out that some of these ladies are every bit, it's like any sport or anything else, or every bit, they can run as fast, they can jump as high, as the men can. So I'm pleased with that portion of the industry where the mix of the sexes, if you wish, has come to fruition and worked. It actually happened in spite of what people said years ago.
Yeah.
I remember one assistant director saying to me, I don't want to see no women use the F word doing this. I brought this girl, Shelly, and told her in to do a driving gig. And when I gave her name in, said, do it. I mean, I almost got fired. Here was the word. He said, she screws up, you're out.
Wow.
And that wasn't just once. I ran into that several times in the beginning.
Yeah.
So the thing is, she showed them how to drive.
Right.
This girl, oh, she could drive. I mean, she's just a natural person for the job.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been there, and I like to think it's a little part of my legacy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is. And the original Avengers series in the 60s was also very pioneering in terms of women stunt performers. Sid Child is a very famous stunt lady in the UK, and she doubled Diana Rigg and Linda Thorson, and of course then Joanna Lumley later on. So, and before she came along in the mid 60s, it was, as you say, it was a man with a wig on, and somebody slender, and she, along with others, sort of started changed it and created the modern stunt world we sort of have today in that respect.
Well, it's a good thing. And you said the 60s. It's interesting. That's when it got its foothold here too as well. The early 60s, really. Even a little later, even maybe, but mid to 1970 or so. But I'll tell you what, no matter what, they enhance their industry. It's not about falling down, go boom. It's about what it's done for the industry overall.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can now saying, don't bother to hire an actress. I'll just get so-and-so in, and she can do both the actress part and the stunt. That saves them money. I can remember a production meeting where they were deciding which actress to hire for the part, and there were some stunts in the part, and the girl that got hired looked like one of my stunt women. And I said, well, she looks just like Leslie, so she got the job. So there's some weird stuff going around, but hey, we've built a pretty good industry there. Like I say, it's getting a little bit weird. It's going through another weird stage, but it'll heal itself.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it will. Just a couple of final questions. I think when we talked last time, you mentioned there was a rainstorm. Was this on Gladiators when you were in the car?
I remember I was in the car. Leslie, the stunt girl, was in the car. I think Leslie was in the car. Gambit, when I can never remember his name.
Gareth Hunt.
And an actress. I was driving, and it rained so hard that you could hardly see the hood ornament on the car. And everybody was on my case to stop, sit it out.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't stop and sit it out. When I drive in a rainstorm, I don't look straight ahead. First of all, your lights, no matter, make it worse. I always drive to the passenger side of the car, the side of the road. So I was driving, and I could see the whole edge of the road pretty plain, pretty clearly. But everybody in that car was pretty shook up.
Oh yeah. was this a?
Well, I wasn't exactly happy myself.
No. Well, was this a film you were doing, or was that a TV project, or was it? Do you know what that was?
This was driving home from work.
Oh, this was driving home from work after a long day. Yeah. Well, you want to get home, don't you, in that situation? Yeah.
For some reason, I think that I had someplace I had to be later.
Yeah.
Also, pulling over when it's that dark and the visibility is so bad, you better find a safe place to pull over. You can't just pull over to the side of the road.
No.
I don't think anybody but me was thinking that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just sort of some final thoughts. So of course you have a very wide-ranging career. Out of all the projects, I mentioned, I sent you some projects via Messenger earlier, some potential talking
Yes,
points.
you sent me
Was
a
it,
list. I got it right here
yeah,
beside me.
was
Yeah.
was there maybe one or two of those that stuck out as worth perhaps briefly mentioning?
Well, I go through this list, and I'll first give you a list of the. I don't know what I did in. Okay,
Mhm.
like the Incredible Hulk. I think I just was running real fast and whatever the Hulk was doing, and I got thrown through the air onto the deck.
Ah,
That's what I remember about that.
mhm.
16 blocks was, I think, about a bus, a runaway bus sort of thing.
That was Bruce Willis and Richard Donner directed that one. Yeah, so I think he was trying to sort of get to. It's a while since I've seen it, but I think basically the premise was that he was Bruce Willis was a cop and he had to escort somebody 16 blocks, hence the name of the film, and there was so many people in his way, and I think that was sort of the premise behind it.
Well, I was on the street and I think got somehow or other tossed through the air and smashing down on a vegetable table or something. I don't know, as it was all happening.
Yeah.
Assault something.
Yes, Assault on Precinct 13. Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you what I did on that show.
Oh, that's okay.
No
Yeah,
idea.
that was starred Ethan Hawke and Lawrence Fishburne.
Was there a train involved? Was there a train involved in that?
I think that was. Oh, I'd have to watch it again, but essentially, I think it was bad guys trying to break into a prison, and it was trying to sort of. It was kind of like a building under siege sort of story.
Remember. The Tuxedo. I remember the name of this movie quite well. I think I did some driving. I certainly. If I wasn't the stunt coordinator, I probably don't know what I did.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
Then X-Men. Once again, I was just getting knocked around. I was. They have a term for a general stuntman. You don't get hired for any specific stunt. You get hired to be there, and they throw you in where they need you.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that Dead Silence. No idea.
No, that's okay.
Due South was not my show. It was a series.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would work out of the 3 or 4 years that it ran, probably 5 or 6 days doing something.
Yeah.
You know, because I knew the coordinator. But with series, sometimes if you can be seen, they won't hire you back. So because people, one episode is this, and then the next episode they see was something entirely different.
I'm not hearing you so well, Dwayne. Have you got anything near the microphone?
No, I know I'm just about the same.
Oh, lovely. Yeah,
Can
yeah,
you hear me now?
you're back again. Yeah, it might be the
Okay.
signal. So
Where
that was
the,
just a few.
Where the microphone is on this?
Yeah.
It's on the side of the phone.
Oh,
For
yeah,
example,
that's fine now. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to hear me now.
No,
So,
that's
just
fine.
crossed it out.
It's
And
just-
you can do it accidentally just holding onto the phone.
Oh, yeah. No worries. So due south, it was just a few days here and there. It wasn't much to sort of speak of.
Job here and there, you know, a little fight scene somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, Johnny Mnemonic. I was shot in Montreal.
Yeah.
As a stunt coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that show. There was just a lot of real oddball stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was a whole city or town that was built up in the air in that movie, right? We had different means of getting around, and I know we had to throw cars off it. We had to, I had to build a giant blue screen of cardboard boxes because there was going to be this incredible fall, and they wanted to see it in. Of course, working with Keanu Reeves is a blessing to anybody. And the big guy, what was his name? He was a really nice guy too. The problem with that movie was overnight they'd change your mind. And usually there was an incredible amount of rigging, people scaling walls to get up to this place and whatnot. And they would change the whole day. So they say, well, we're going to do this today. I said, well, I'm not rigged for this. You know, I need a day to rig this. Well, get at it and see what you can do. Or they would call me late at night and say, we're going to change this. So I would go in 2 hours before call time so they could get it. I didn't really like doing that too much, but it was a pretty interesting movie.
Mhm.
Shot it in Montreal. Most was one of those guys I told you about, Afraid of Heights.
Yeah.
Took a job on that show, and he was being cabled. Like it was a cable on him, pulling him out.
Mhm.
And I thought he was going to cry. But yeah, it was a good show. It was good people. Also on that show, was it that show? Well, it happened in Toronto. My daughter comes out to visit me, and because she wanted to meet Keanu. I think it was some of it was in Toronto and some of it was in Montreal.
Mhm.
And the kind of guy he is, he says to my daughter, she maybe was 11 or 12 years old at the time, I don't know. He got the 80s. He said, take this girl to wardrobe, get her dressed like the rest of these people. She's in my movie.
Oh, how lovely.
Not nice?
Yeah,
And
wonderful.
she got paid.
Oh, even better.
You can't beat that. Not only did she get the autograph, get the pictures with him and everything, he got her a little extra role in the picture. So that's some of my memories from that show.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Are you? I think when we talked last, we were struggling to think of who another stunt person on that was. It Vic Armstrong you were thinking of? So
It was exactly Vic Armstrong.
It was, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
I always remember Vic complimenting me. I was working high in the air and pretty sort of edgy stuff. And I wasn't a spring chicken at the time either. I was probably in my 40s or early 50s. I don't know. And I remember him pulling me aside and saying, geez, how do you do it, man? I wouldn't do it. He was just, it's nice for somebody to be impressed, especially somebody with his kind of name.
Oh yeah, very impressive name.
But he was impressed that I was still up there, agile enough to bounce around up there. So it's the old thing about your peers.
Oh yeah.
Peers have respect. You can walk a little bit higher on the way home. So that was good. But Vic, yeah.
Sorry, Dwayne, I've lost your sound again.
Really? Still lost it?
Oh, no, now it's fine. Yeah, I think just goes occasionally. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I did another show with Vic.
Yeah.
Called Up North, up in Alaska. I did another show with him. Can't remember. Well, I should remember. The Bear Island, it was called.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He. I think it was Bear Island first.
Right.
And then the other one, and so he made sure I got on the other. Well, actually, I was as much a stunt coordinator on that show, Johnny Mnemonic, as Vic was. And we were a pretty level match there. Yeah. Liked him too. There are not too many people that I could say I didn't like. There were a couple I'm not going to name. But generally speaking, you probably would have had more animosity on other kinds of jobs than I've ever had in all my years in the industry.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't spend all that time in the industry not have somebody not like you, okay, for whatever reason. Yeah, Vic, thanks for reminding me of that.
My pleasure.
Well, I wonder. Well, Vic had a brother who also was a stunt coordinator too.
Oh, right.
He did a movie here, but I was busy. I couldn't. I did a driving thing on it, short, but I wasn't able to work the show. For me, sometimes if you're a top of the line, okay, if you're a good stunt coordinator, you're usually employed. So you don't get to work on all the pictures. You just know, you know.
Hmm.
So I got 2 days for you. Rats. My show is shooting one of those days or 2 of those days. So you miss out on a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
I wouldn't call it a miss out if you're working and making your living,
Yeah.
but involvement.
Oh yeah, not always, there, are you? So yeah, that's fair enough. Any other highlights in that list at all?
Oh, let's see the list. Here it is. We got down to Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah.
Death Wish. I did some driving sequences on that, and Charlie Bronson, I think, was the actor.
Yeah.
I did. It wasn't my show, but I did some driving sequence. Switching Channels was another one that shot a lot of Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
That may have been a movie where when they first introduced, or almost first introduced, these rigs that you do high falls on rather than doing free falls, they would descenders, they call them, decelerators.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I got called in on that show. Was Burt Reynolds in that show? Switching Channels?
Yeah, I think Switching Channels, I believe, was Burt Reynolds and Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've got my movies. There was one that I was down in Montreal shooting where we had these decelerators off a bridge in Montreal, and I had to bring some guys in from LA to do that because we didn't have the technology here.
Yeah.
And I remember the river underneath was pretty swift, and I was recovery for the guy doing the fall. Just because he's on a rig doesn't mean, I had to go out with this boat and try and keep the boat under him so we could recover him. It was terrible. The currents in this, it was just awful. But anyway, that's
Did you ever encounter? Did you ever encounter Christopher Reeve?
Yes, but it was on a different movie.
Yeah, I think that was Switching Channels. I think Christopher Reeve was on.
I mean, no, but that's not the one I'm thinking of. God, I was looking at that not too long ago, and it was British actor
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine, yeah, exactly. It was Michael Caine. And it was about him escaping from jail and getting in a car with this kid, and they had a relationship while he was trying to escape from the cops. Had a big fire gag in a cell, 2 men in a prison cell on fire.
Okay, yeah.
That movie, and Reeves was on that movie.
Okay, yeah.
Someone, and I met him there. I have a picture of him and one of the lead female actors somewhere around. I have so many pictures that I can't. I digging through them is too much trouble.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did. It had something to do. I think it had something to do with water.
Yeah.
I remember my stunt girl, Leslie Monroe, doubling that girl, and I know that she was in the water or something. That's a while back. The funny thing about that show is there's a guy down in the US somewhere who keeps contacting me because he's a fanatic about that movie.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It was a good movie. It was a fun movie. I could go into some stories with that movie, but where the stunts were involved. We had car rolls, and we had a situation where he let that boy, about 12 years old, I guess, drive the getaway car, sort of. So then when the cops come and drive up beside him, you need to be moving and you need to see this kid behind the wheel.
Yeah.
So once again, rather than effects, I designed a rig that allowed me to attach to that car with another car so far apart on a hinge system that you could go forward or backwards a car length. So I drove that car
Yeah.
the sidecar, and the come on, and was able to go at different speeds.
Hmm.
And you could go a little bit ahead, and the kid's back there. You could go a little bit back, and he's up there. And it really looked like this boy was driving that car.
Hmm.
Really, really, really. I was really proud of myself on that job. Martin's Day, it was called.
Oh, Martin's Day.
That was the name of the movie, Martin's Day.
Martin's Day. Okay.
Uh, I can see the actress playing his day, but I can't get her name.
That's all right.
And yes, we did that fire stunt. I had inquiries recently from somewhere.
Hmm.
I told you the guy's just gobsmacked about this movie for years. He even came up to Toronto and went to some of the locations
Oh, yeah.
where they shot this stuff. And he's telling me I went to that actual location. And I said, well, it's too bad you didn't know me at the time. I'd taken you out for dinner or something.
Yeah.
But it's called Martin's Day. And the fire gag in that show is, that's what this guy originally got in touch with me for. He wanted to know how he did that.
Yeah.
Because it's massive. Like this prison cell is full of fire.
Oh, sounds worth a look. Yes. Yeah.
Two guys,
Yeah.
and we have a t-shirt and boxer shorts.
Hmm.
That's all we have on.
Yeah. Wow.
Prison guard. Upper and lower cell. And I mean, we couldn't put the back out. We had to come out the front. So no matter what happened, and the cameras were at the front. But it's just to observe this fire gag was just frightening.
Hmm.
But this water gel, the gel method of doing fires at the time.
Yeah.
I was in charge of that because a guy from Australia gave me how it was made. I had it, how it was done. In a movie called City on Fire was the first time I used it.
Yeah.
That was shot in Montreal as well. And we stayed in there for a pretty good length of time. But we also had, the gray wool blankets that they have in prison. They're soaked in this gel, so they couldn't burn and they couldn't get hot.
Right.
So we were able to manipulate the fire all around us on the walls. The reason the fire was there was he wanted to escape from prison.
Right.
Okay. So he lit everything on fire, and they'd have to open the door and actually take him to the hospital where he could escape. That's the whole deal. But I mean, that's another famous fire gag, because today that wouldn't be such a big deal because they've refined that equipment to the point where you can burn on your bare skin.
Oh, yeah.
I actually did that, but only on an arm. I never did it on an entire body. And I can't remember her name, but she was a rock star. She was doing her, what do they call them when they do? Oh, well, anyway, she did it. I put it on her arm. But now they do it like they do it right to their bare skin. They put this stuff on and they've got so much burn time.
Yeah.
But I remember that was probably Shane and I did that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, boy. I wouldn't want to do it again today, but even though they have better equipment.
Oh, yeah. That sounds, fun, but yes, but very, very dangerous. I'm just having a look at the cast list for that one. That was Richard Harris, Lindsay Wagner, James Coburn.
Yeah, I love James Coburn. I love that guy.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite actors.
Absolutely. You got a computer in front of me. You're Googling these, right?
Oh, yeah. I do cheat. Yes.
Well, that's good news. That's good. Yeah, that's exactly who they were. But that was a great movie. We did a lot of nice stunts on it, nice car rolls and all kinds of cool stuff. And the original actor you mentioned that was Superman, he was in that movie. Yeah. And Richard Harris, what a good guy he was. He used to tell me all kinds of stories about he and some other British actor drinking all the time. He should be
Oh,
drunk all the time.
oh, who was Richard Harris's drinking partner? I should know this. Peter O'Toole?
I don't think it was, it might have been, I don't remember it being Peter O'Toole, but
Peter
they were in a play
O'Toole.
together. They were in a play together, he said. And
Hmm.
they usually had people making sure during any break of any length of time, they didn't run off to a bar somewhere.
Yeah.
They had them sort of look. He said, but we got pretty drunk, and so we found a couple of seats in the audience
Yeah.
and waited for our parts to come up in the live show.
Hmm.
And he said to the guy beside him, "Oh, you wait till this guy comes on." He was telling me this amazing stories. But it wasn't Peter. I worked with Peter O'Toole as well.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing I remember most about Peter O'Toole, he's not a very big man. He wasn't a very big man. He was fairly fine body. But in person, when you looked at him, he didn't impress you very much.
Right.
But once they turned a camera on him,
Yeah.
he just shone like cameras loved that man.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
Just
Yeah.
loved that man. Not to mention his ability to act. You know, yeah, it was it's trouble for me to remember the names of some of these, but this was well, now it won't come to me. It was a segment about army being in the army, but I don't think it was essentially an army picture. Richard was called. But anyway, he was an amazing man too.
Oh.
See, people I've worked with, I just can't say anything bad about them. Just nobody.
That's
really,
lovely.
really
Yeah.
hard to do.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah, it's
hard
nice to have all those wonderful experiences. And do you have a favorite person that you worked with, from a favorite actor that you worked with that just stays with you?
You would think a name would pop right out of my head immediately, but not so. One of my favorite people to work with was Charles Bronson.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I really liked him. While we worked together through the whole movie, I would say we sort of became friends. You know, he would look me up on a shooting day. Where are you? We're going to sit together and shoot the shit, or and that went on for quite some time. Charles Bronson won. Of course, I couldn't help but enjoy myself with Burt Reynolds. You know, like I remember getting him his own knee pads and elbow pads for him, and he let me stay on his bus, which is $1 million bus, through the whole movie. You know, we come to work, don't go there, come to the bus, it's yours while we're here. Who else? Well, there were a couple of people that really, you know, Dick Van Dyke. I just love Dick Van Dyke.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
What a guy. I'll tell you a Dick Van Dyke story that he told, that we got along so well that I mentioned one day, I said, well, we better go for dinner and have a couple of drinks. And he said, oh, geez, I can't do that. I said, why, you don't like me? He said, no, if I have a drink, he said, well, let's put it this way. I have to be somewhere in August, and this was in the wintertime. I didn't realize he used to be an alcoholic.
No, I didn't either. No.
What a great line. I have to be somewhere in June or whatever it was he said, you know.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Keir Delay was another guy that he wasn't the best known actor in the world. He did that space movie. What do you call that? Where he was alone in space with the computer.
Oh, 2001.
Yes.
Yeah.
Space Odyssey.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, yeah, we got to be buddies and went out around it with his wife and whatnot. And I remember coming to his studio one day and coming in, and everybody's giving the old shh, you know, they were rehearsing, they weren't actually shooting, but and then I sort of stood there, and they called action, and he noticed me standing there, and he said, cut. Comes right over to say, hi, how you been, man? I just, some of these guys, they weren't necessarily the biggest names in the industry, but they were names certainly in the industry. who became sort of just fun to be around, you know. Everybody needs a buddy at it. If you're from out of town on a movie, I think you need to have a buddy.
Yeah, you need people that got your back, don't you? Really?
Yeah. So yeah, there was more than one, and some of them may sound a bit odd to you, but that's who some of them were.
No, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah. No.
I think the only thing I wanted to ask you that left on that list was probably Police Academy.
Okay, Police Academy. I did two of them. I think it was number 1 and number 3.
Number 3, yeah.
Number 3 is the one with the boats in it. Have you seen the movies?
I have, not most recently, but yes, I do know.
Anyway, where they're out in the water with their ski-doos and a boat chase. It was a small boat. The boat was about 8 feet long with a huge motor on it. And then there was another larger boat. And I was chasing the boat in this little boat. I jumped over an island with that little boat. I jumped over a garbage scow filled with garbage, a huge garbage scow. And I jumped right through a boathouse and out the back end. Greatest of all time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you a figure, but on that show, no stuntman had ever made as much money in one day as I did in that show.
Well, yeah, well deserved. Yeah, yeah.
I love that. I'm not going to give you a figure, but it was high.
Oh, good.
And they had to drive me down to the U.S. They were running late, and I said, I'm booked in the U.S. Pennsylvania or somewhere. I don't know where the hell it was. There's a show about something going on, an explosion in a mine. And I said, I'm booked there tomorrow, and I'm supposed to be out of here. I was supposed to be out of there yesterday. So they actually got a driver. It must have cost them a fortune to drive me down overnight. But I number 1 movie, it was sort of an introduction to it. Didn't do a whole lot. Did a bit of driving. Did a fight in a gay bar or something like that. But it was on the next one where I became sort of king for being chasing this little boat. Did some pretty big jumps with it, you know. I remember jumping in and saying, you know, you think you're going to turn upside down once you get in the air with this little thing. But I managed to land them all, and that was a relief when that was over. That would be about my biggest brag, if you wish, about police academies. Yeah.
Wonderful, very, very good. This might be a difficult question, but do you have a favorite project in your career, one that stands out firmly from the others, or do they all kind of sort of like your favorite? You know, it's like saying what your favorite child is, but you know, is it?
One of my favorite movies to work on, I think there was a television series. They were called Trailer Park Boys. It was a television series. Then they did a movie, and I think that working on that movie was one of the great neat things of my career. There are these 4 guys who did a series together. And in my money, anytime I worked on a series, there was usually always conflict if there were more than one lead actor. You know what I mean? There was always, I mentioned it before, I think, there's always some conflict going on between the actors, or one actor who didn't like anybody at all and was always way on their own, or complaining about something all the time. These guys were lovable completely. One of the most famous television series in Canada, you should look it up. These were the guys who introduced the 4-letter word on every second word in the line basis.
Well,
These guys were freaking amazing. If you get a chance to look them up, it was called Trailer Park Boys. That was the name of the series. And I did a movie with them. I loved it. We did some really fantastic stunt driving on that movie.
Hmm.
And it's odd that that one stands out because, again, you got to remember that I might work on a well-known movie, but only one day
Oh yeah.
or
Yeah.
2 days. So
Yeah.
you never get into, you never see a script. You see your page, a couple of pages, but you never see a script. So you're not very up to date on it.
Hmm.
And I would say a large portion of the movies that for any stuntman, even a coordinator, you're quite often called in for, just 1 day or 3 days, and you don't mingle at all. You go do it and get it and go home.
Hmm.
So, but I mean, we were out in the East Coast, Canada's East Coast, Halifax, I think, with these guys, and wow, one of them actually owned a bar. He would take us down to the bar, anything you want, food, booze, whatever you want. It was on the house, right? And they really like to get involved as well. We had a car chase with a van and a convertible, and the convertible was full of cases of whiskey. So we had to drive this vehicle from inside a cardboard box in a high-speed chase. And the other, the guy was standing up in the car, peeing as he went down the street. I mean, it's just this really weird bunch of people, man. I'll tell you, but the most fun I ever had, I think, on a movie.
Oh yeah. Sounds a lot
So
of fun.
look it up, see if you get a look at. You won't be able to see it. I think they ran as a series for about 4 years, and they did 2 movies. So
Sounds good. Yeah.
you'll be able to find them somewhere, but you might have to plug your ears because they use the F word a lot.
Oh, I don't. I'm not opposed to that. So,
but way back then, this was pretty heavy stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
All of them. They even invited, anytime you want to go deep sea fishing, come on down. We'll look after you. Want to do this? Come on down. We'll put you up. I mean, how often does that happen to me? I've had a couple people say, "Oh, if you're ever in LA, but I didn't see them handing me a phone number."
Well, yes.
So yeah. You're bringing up old memories here.
Oh, good. Yeah, and really, really good ones. The only thing we did mention was Short Circuit 2 and The Fly. Was there anything quickly you want to mention?
Okay, yes. Short Circuit, what I did in Short Circuit was drive the car that the robot was holding on to and trying to stop. If you think it was easy, it wasn't. I remember doing that on that show. I may have done a couple of other things, but I will always remember because, I mean, the car, first of all, you were spinning the wheel, so you didn't want it to be spinning out too much. You had to be making progress, and the robot doesn't weigh as much as a car. You can't make it heavy. Yeah. So it was really hard to fake this pull thing, okay, of pulling this thing that was on wheels. I remember that I got called in late on that movie. It wasn't my movie. That movie was being done by a group of stunt guys who we had conflicts with. But a guy from LA, the coordinator from LA, when he came up here, my name was already given to him. So when my name didn't show up on the roster, after a while, he asked casting or someone, "Where is this man? I need him." What was his name? I won't remember his name, but I remember that specifically. First of all, they were trying to keep us off that movie. Another little stunt organization who are now no longer exist. Surprise. And the other movie you mentioned was The Fly.
Oh, yeah.
Couple of neat things on The Fly. One was the whole room was built to rotate. So when he's climbing walls, he's actually just walking on the floor here. The wall changes. You get it? So everything, like if there was a broom in the corner, that broom had to be stationary, right? Everything, even the lamps hanging from the wall had to be stationary. So when you turned, it always looked like the room. It was a huge, huge big set, which fascinated me. I just said, wow, this is amazing, right? And there's a shot where the fly has the girl in his arms and he jumps through a skylight with her in his arms. This is the girl I mentioned before, Leslie Monroe, I think. So we had to see him come through this skylight and get some distance of a fall. Well, it's never easy to jump long distance on your feet. You usually have some kind of a landing pad of sorts. Let alone carrying 120 pounds in your arms. So how are we going to do this? So what I did, my phone just told me it's going to rain up the street. How are we going to do this? What I did was I put a fall pad of cardboard boxes about 4 feet off the floor, if I remember, 4 feet off the floor. I put an 8-inch gym mat right on the floor. Then I had my guy jump onto the 8-inch mat, but his arms are out over the box pad, fall pad. So in essence, he didn't take her weight at all. She just fell into the fall pad and he was able to then take the pressure on his feet. It was about, if I recall, it was around 15 feet. Now that's a pretty long way to jump on your feet. So I was real proud of that shot. I mean, I really got to say, I was real proud of that shot. But it was a fun movie to be in because so many neat things happened. That's one that I remember as talking to you as the stunt coordinator of that movie. I didn't get on the second fly. There was a second one, but I didn't get on that. It was done in the States, I think. But that particular thing I remember, and I remember the rotating set. I mean, it was just, and you watch the monitors, you know, and say, wow, it looks like he's just walking up the walls. What's happening is the walls are coming down to him, right, in the ceiling. Most amazing.
And
that's what I remember the most about the fly.
And lastly, did you do much work outside of Canada, or was it the work always there? You didn't kind of have to think about that.
Well, I did some work. I did Porky's in Florida, the movie Porky's. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but it's quite a famous movie.
Yeah.
I did, what else did I do? I did 3 or 4 movies in the US. Their just names won't pop out. There weren't movies of any great. I know I've had to go down there and shoot because we were doing an explosion in a mine, and the only mine they could find that was clean enough to do it in was down in Pennsylvania. That's the shot I went down from Police Academy to do, as a matter of fact.
Oh, right.
They had to drive me down. Yeah. I did. Porky's was in Florida. Geez, I'm sorry. That's about the best you're going to get out of me at this moment.
Yeah, that's fine.
There were others, though. Mostly, you know, 99% of my career was right here in Ontario.
And you're very much in. Oh, sorry, Dwayne.
No, that's fine. I mean, our own provinces. I've shot in Vancouver and places like that, and the East Coast, Halifax, which I just mentioned, Quebec, so all across Canada. But you know, the thing with the U.S. is they had their own stuntmen down there, and they weren't overly impressed with people coming in and sort of taking my job. You know, you can't blame them, I suppose. No. But the producer of Porky's is a guy named Don Carmody, who's a famous,
Oh, sorry, Dwayne, I've lost your audio again.
Oh, I got my finger over. I had my finger over the mic.
Oh, that's right. No worries.
Sorry. Don Carmody, and he, I heard this later. He called me and said, "I got a job for you, blah, 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 blah. We'll be going to Florida, do it." And I found out later that he'd actually talked to the special effects man and say, "Who do you think I should get as a stunt coordinator in this movie? We've got some unusual stuff." And the special effects man told him to hire me. So that's how I got the job. And after that, I've probably done 5 pictures with Don Carmody. If you look him up, he's got an extensive and well-known career.
Yeah,
So,
will do.
that's how I got the job on Porky's, which they did a Porky's too, but it never measured up. You know, we're doing our 40-year in October for Christmas Story.
Oh, yes. So another big film for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll be in October. 40 years ago, we did that movie. We did a 20-year anniversary, but this is a 40. So I'll be going to that. Should make a bundle signing autographs.
Oh, yeah. Because again, I think we were saying last time that there is so much attention on, stunt boys, stunt coordinators now. Back then,
Yes,
you were hidden, weren't you?
Nobody cared about the character I played in that movie for the last 20 years. Nobody ever, name never came up. But all of a sudden, it came up about 5 or 6 weeks ago. Yeah. And it's nonstop. Yeah. Like my phone just goes, "Can you send me autographs? How do you do this?" I'm just my favorite movie of all time. And geez. And they're paying my way down there to do all this stuff. And now, what was the last thing? It was so high praise that I don't want to repeat it. It sounds like I'm bragging.
Yeah. Well,
so all of a sudden, I'm top doggy with that show. I probably didn't hit England. It's about a kid who wanted a BB gun for Christmas in the 1940s.
Yeah.
And it's a cult movie.
Yeah.
For example, for the entire month of December, it's played in some places in the United States 24 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
Back to back to back, 24 hours a day. Tomorrow, 24 hours a day.
Wow.
So it's a cult movie of some, but like I say, for some reason, my character, who was an imaginary character in the little boy's, I was the bad guys, and with his new BB gun, he was protecting his family from these bad guys. But all of a sudden, I was looking for a part of the wardrobe after I heard that it all was coming up, and some guy bought it for me and mailed it to me.
Oh.
Because I happened to mention I'm having trouble finding this striped sweater. Next thing I know, somebody from Mississippi or Minnesota or somewhere is sending me one for free.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah.
So I don't know what brought that on, but I'll ride it as long as I can. Just for example, a month and a half ago, I guess, maybe 2 months, but I don't think that long. I didn't think anybody ever heard of me, for example. Well, all of a sudden, depositing in my bank account, my electronic bank account, first check was $750.
Very nice.
And another couple of days later for $250. I mean, what?
And this is signing autographs and stuff.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I'm part of this cult now. Oh,
it's
just crazy.
Yeah.
Well, the 250 were all US dollars, $25 a hit.
Lovely. Yeah.
So, and you got to remember that a $20 US or $25 US is probably around $35 Canadian. So it's a big deal. So life is good. Life is good, man.
Yes, that sounds it. And of course you're continuing with the stunts, and you hope to be the oldest ever stunt person?
Well, I'm not sure that I'm the oldest ever. There might have been an old guy down in the US who, sat in the driver's seat in a chase scene, stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But certainly, to my knowledge, at the present time, I am the oldest working stuntman.
Wow. Yeah.
And again, I only do it because I want to add it to part of my legacy. This guy, they're going to be able to say when I pass, this guy worked well into his 80s. Okay. There isn't, it'll be a long time before anybody lasts that long again. And I'm in pretty good shape.
Good.
I don't have any extra weight. I'm well proportioned, I guess you could say, and agile. I don't work out as much as I could, although I'm on a new regimen now. I go at least twice and maybe 3 times. It's a fairly large block around from my house, so I might do it 3 times a day, and then maybe in a week or so I'll expand that. So I'm starting to think more about my cardiology. Is that what they call it? Or cardiology, heart?
Cardio. Yeah.
I'm starting to think more about that. And it's a good thing. I'm a lot brisker walk since I started doing it a couple of weeks ago there.
Oh, good.
I'm not sort of slouching along anymore. I can get up and walk.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to accomplish. And I have my own workout in my garage here, my own self-invented workout system.
Yeah.
That put me in before the pandemic. My own system put me in tip-top strength shape.
Oh, good. Yeah.
When I started working on it, I could do about this many of a certain rep, maybe 12 to 15. Now I can do 50. So I think it's time in my life to not worry too much about work and not worry too much about whether I'm who I am or anything like that. But what, get yourself in shape and
look after ourselves and enjoy life. I think that's what we can all should be doing, really. So,
well, I'm a procrastinator at some things, but when I decide I'm going to do something, I do it.
Yeah.
When I decided to quit smoking, you're probably not interested. I smoked for over 50 years. I quit smoking in 2001. Cold turkey. Best thing I ever did for myself. Believe me, nothing in my life has done me better than quit smoking.
Oh, good. Congratulations.
I used to be a party animal, but in the early 1990s, I quit because I was gaining weight. I quit drinking. And now, I'm really on a binge if I drink a beer a month. Coming off the golf course or something, I might have a cold beer.
Yeah.
I just quit. But I have to do that. I have to do it here. I have to, same as stunts. We were talking about, has to be in here. You have to be. So once procrastinating is my favorite word these days. It's about getting older. Nah, I'm a procrastinator. So I'm not going to just get old because I'm supposed to. What can you say? Life is good.
Yeah. Sounds like you're having a great time, and you say it's all about the mindset, and you're not old unless you think you are, or you start acting like it. So if you keep yourself going, and I think that's worth to live by, really.
I think some people may be predisposed. Maybe there's a DNA factor or something, so it's hard.
Yeah.
But I think generally across the board, you're right. You can help yourself.
Well, that's probably a lovely note to end it on. Thank you very much, Dwayne, for this wonderful conversation. It's been an absolute delight. Any final thoughts about the new Avengers before we go? Is it nice to rediscover it 45 years on?
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, I was doing a little, backslapping, a little chest pounding here. Wow. In the fact that I was just sort of, I was a stunt coordinator, but there were two of us and it was split. And I thought, geez, I can't be that important that somebody cares what I think about the 4 episodes. So it came to me as a sort of a, another bragging point, if you want to put it that way. It really made me feel good that I was appreciated within the industry. I'm not, I don't know what the premise for it all is, but that's the way I'm taking it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it. And I was just, I was biting my nails. I was crazed that I was going to miss you because I had this all screwed up and nobody here to help me. But my daughter helped me on the phone some, and somehow or other, all of a sudden you were there. So, and guess what? I found the little mic for muting and but it was hidden around a corner.
It can be sometimes. Yeah.
So all's well.
Oh yeah. And as you say, it's not nice to be associated with these kind of shows because they last, don't they?
They were, well, I mean, these were shows that the whole world watched. It wasn't just British. I mean, I like to watch British comedies because they're funny, real funny and well acted. But the Avengers, wow, everybody stopped and watched that show every week. I remember it well. So it had a pleasing effect to me to be remembered as part of it.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad we had this chat. Yeah.
I hope I haven't let you down.
Oh no, I've been absolutely wonderful. I had a nice comment from Rick in the audience, says, thanks so much, Dwayne and Philip. Thoroughly enjoyable, fascinating chat. So I think people have enjoyed it, and they'll love to watch it on YouTube as well, I'm sure. Okay.
It's getting late down your way, right? 10 o'clock.
Oh yes, we've been talking. Well, yeah. So yes, I better let you get on, enjoy your day and your weekend. So thank you very much, Dwayne, and have a lovely weekend.
Yeah, hope we can talk again sometime.
Oh, that would be lovely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.